Hi, and welcome to Web3 Unfiltered, the podcast that cuts through the hype to explore the systems, infrastructure, and real world execution shaping the next generation of the internet. I am your host, Collins Victory Odabi. One of blockchain's biggest challenges has never been technology, it has been relevance. And for years, the industry has searched for its killer application. While countless projects have promised to revolutionize everything from finance to governance, yet many of those ideas never made it beyond speculation because they started with blockchain rather than with an actual business problem. The more interesting builders are approaching things differently. They begin with the operational friction, expensive, repetitive, often invisible problems that businesses deal with every single day, and only then ask whether decentralized infrastructure genuinely offers a better solution. So, to discuss this with me today, I'm joined by a guest who works directly at that intersection. Joining me today is Dan Beech. He is an entrepreneur, investor, and founder of Beachworks and Archively. Across more than 2 decades, Dan has built and led companies spanning real estate, wealth management, healthcare, lending, consumer products, and blockchain. Having scaled organizations generating tens of millions in annual revenue, he brings an operator's perspective to technology, one that values practicality over novelty. So today we'll explore why blockchain succeeds only when it solves meaningful business problems, why document storage may be one of the technology's most overlooked applications, and what founders can learn from building businesses in highly regulated industries. Dan, welcome to Web3 Unfiltered. How are you doing today?
Wow, thank you for such an amazing introduction. I'm doing great. It's wonderful Wednesday, and my life is full of opportunities. Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Please tap me into some of those opportunities in your life. All right, Dan, welcome.
Happy to. Now we're here.
All right, welcome to Web3 Unfiltered once again, and thanks for joining me on the show. So, Dan, one of the recurring criticisms in blockchain is that too many applications or too many projects exist simply because the technology exists. The solution is often built around or before anyone has clearly defined the problem. And that creates projects or products that are technically impressive but commercially unnecessary. Your career suggests you've approached innovation from the opposite direction. Having spent decades solving operational challenges across multiple industries before entering blockchain, what convinced you that document storage represented a problem where decentralized infrastructure genuinely creates value instead of simply adding complexity?
Wow, I really like how you framed that. Blockchain is an amazing tool, and if you are applying it in the right way, then wow, it's a force magnifier. So the way that we're using it with Archively is we first noticed a gap. Running a wealth management firm for high net worth individuals and working with lots of estate planning attorneys, we kind of discovered this problem from the inside that really touches almost every single family. And it's this gap between when a family leader dies or is incapacitated and when the family can move on peacefully. There's this space in the middle that even when there's good planning, it's still just chaotic. And on the extreme is what we see in the news, big battles in probate court. On the other side is maybe just a breakdown in communication, brothers and sisters not talking to each other for years, and all points in between. And so it's kind of this intersection, Archively is this intersection of recognizing that real gap that affects almost everyone, paired with the fact that the document storage infrastructure that all of these families are relying on is already 20 years old. Dropbox came out in 2007. It's already 20-year-old technology. And when these documents that family leaders are creating today will be needed is maybe 20, 30 years from now. So by that time, the storage solution that's in use today will be 50 years old. That's the equivalent of taking your precious family photos and storing them on a floppy disk, also 50-year-old technology. So we're using blockchain to innovate the document storage and at the same time solving this really huge family that, or this really huge gap that touches almost every family.
Amazing, Darren. Really, really amazing. You built something absolutely incredible. And I must add that that distinction is an important one because businesses rarely adopt new technology for ideological reasons. I think they adopt it because it reduces risk, it lowers cost, it simplifies compliance, or creates measurable efficiencies. But blockchain has often struggled to communicate those benefits in languages executives actually care about. So when you explain blockchain-based documents and infrastructure to business leaders who are skeptical of the industry, what conversations actually change their minds? And where do you think much of the Web3 industry has failed in communicating its value?
I like the way you framed that. You use the word risk because that's one of the ways that we describe what Archively is doing is we're de-risking your family's future by storing documents better. And so the way that I explain it depends on the audience. So most people, their eyes glaze over a little bit when I start talking about blockchain. Everyone kind of knows the term, but most people are not super tech minded. That's one of the reasons why I was so excited to come on your podcast, is because I can just really go deep into the tech, and people will not only understand it but appreciate it. But the way that I describe it is I try to frame it, what blockchain is, as something that people can relate to. So I say, everyone's familiar with their cloud storage now, whether it's Dropbox or if you're an iPhone user, you've got the iCloud account where, people are familiar with the concept now. It's part of everyone's daily life that you're storing data somewhere on a server somewhere else. And so I frame it there first, and then I say, just multiply that times 10,000 and imagine that your precious family document is mirrored. There's an exact duplicate on 10,000 servers located all around the globe, and they're constantly checking in with each other to make sure that no version has been changed, and if it has been changed, then that gets replaced by a corrected version. And also that means you don't have downtime. 10,000 computers, half of them could go down, and your documents are still accessible. So that's how I usually frame it, and try to make it relatable if there's a non-tech audience.
Amazing, Darren. And in as much as, yes, we're talking about the technology here, I love to extract insights from my guests. Technology alone, I must add, rarely determines whether a company succeeds. Execution does. So you've led organizations with hundreds of employees, managed complex operations and worked across industries with significant regulatory requirements. Those experiences shape how you evaluate opportunities in ways many first time founders simply haven't experienced. So, looking at today's blockchain founders, what operational disciplines or leadership habits do you think are consistently underestimated when trying to build companies that survive beyond their initial product launch?
Well, I think if it's a startup founder, I think the first priority is to make sure that you have built a solution that is solving a real problem for people. And for us in our team, that means talking to users first, potential users. In this case, if you're launching something new, we all have a general idea of who our target customer might be. So go out and talk to those people, try to understand their lives and the problems that they're facing, and then try to map where your technology can solve those problems. So that's my best advice. Is we never want to be a solution in search of a problem. We want to talk to the customers first, clearly understand their pain points and what that problem or what their problems are, and then build something specific to solve those problems. And then I think you're on the right path. And this could be, we're talking about this in the context of launching something new, but could be, say you have an existing business and you're curious maybe about how blockchain could create some efficiencies or additional revenue or provide security or, like you said earlier, de-risk your operations. So if it's kind of an add-on concept, I would still start with trying to understand whoever the target user is. Could be internal in your company, but whoever that target user is, try to understand the problems that they're experiencing, and then build the solution to solve those problems.
Absolutely amazing. So, Dan, I believe one of the recurring criticisms of blockchain products is that decentralization is often introduced where it isn't actually needed. The real test isn't whether a product itself or product uses blockchain. It's whether removing blockchain would fundamentally weaken what the product is trying to achieve. And that's where Archively becomes an interesting example, because it forces us to ask whether trust, provenance, and verification are genuinely different problems from simple document storage. So what capabilities does Archively provide that simply wouldn't be possible or wouldn't be as trustworthy if it were built entirely on traditional cloud infrastructure?
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you framed it that way. As again, you're asking such really great questions. So our belief is, a lot of people have spent significant time and money paying attorneys. They're creating their estate plans, but creating an estate plan without a document access system is like installing a smoke detector in your house without batteries. The protection is there, the estate plan is there, but when your family really needs it most, it may not work. So that's where blockchain comes in, because in Archively, for example, when a user uploads a document, they have a couple of choices to make. They can say, I want to have this document be emergency access, or I want to have this document be family access. Emergency access would be something like a medical directive or a power of attorney, or maybe a copy of your passport because you're traveling overseas, you've lost your passport. You can't hope you have a copy or wait for it to be faxed or emailed. It's something maybe you need right now. The medical directive. Uncle Joe just got into a car wreck. He's in the ICU. The doctor can save his life, but he needs the medical directive. That, it has to be available right now. So this is something that if you're using a regular cloud storage solution, probably it's there, but do you really want to take that risk that, today's July 2nd, 26, and just 2 months ago, all of the Outlook servers were down for 3 days in my part of the world. About 30 days ago, 2 or 3 AWS servers were down, which knocked out, half of North America and Canada. So blockchain solves that problem. Blockchain solves the second category of problem. Say you, as the user, you've uploaded a trust document, or it's the will, or it's your final wishes, something like that. Doesn't need emergency access, but you need to know that when your family needs those documents 10, 20, 30 years from now, that you've stored them in a place that will be there, that has part of its architecture is designed to last for 100 years. And so that's the blockchain that we're using for exactly that reason. And you can't necessarily say that, right? Like Microsoft is a big company, AWS is a big company, but do we really know for sure that they're going to be around in 50 years or acquired by somebody else or go out of business? Who knows? It's happened to big companies before. So that's what we can do using blockchain that is not possible with the current solutions.
Why I particularly find this interesting is I think I remember what happened 2 months ago. There was this security flaw in cPanel that affected a lot of hosting providers globally. And one of the websites I worked on a few years ago, I was a campus journalist in school, and I helped build this website that I set up for them and gave it to them to keep using. And I think there was no backup of the website. The earliest backup I have of the website is far back as 2023. And they did not back up the website after I left, and I left them to handle things. And recently, when that cPanel flaw came about, it's crashed a whole lot of websites. It's affected a whole lot of servers, and we had 6 years of journalism work erased from the internet. Everything lost, every single file. I was particularly pained. Yeah, very devastating. And it was really, really bad. But then I just had to come back up. I just finished building the website, launching it in a few days for them, and just giving it back to the community. So that's one thing. If it were hosted on blockchain, or we had a way of hosting this on the blockchain, a website like this on the blockchain, maybe we do. Maybe I don't know about it yet. Maybe Archively can do that. But we wouldn't be facing this sort of issues. And a few months ago, when I interviewed a guest on my show, Dominic, he was building this platform that helps to keep records of pets, like medical records of pets, on the blockchain. And I told him that in that interview that we could extend this to other platforms, to other areas of life. In academics, we could have academic credentials saved on the blockchain, medical records saved on the blockchain, basically using blockchain as a storage system. And then I came across you, and we're having this conversation, and it's why I'm particularly excited about this this particular episode. So beyond the technology itself, there's another lesson here for founders. Archively began with a specific operational problem rather than an attempt to force blockchain into an existing market. And that mindset is something many entrepreneurs struggle to adopt, particularly in emerging technologies where it's easy to become captivated by the innovation rather than the consumer or the customer. For entrepreneurs listening right now, who wants to build something meaningful or meaningful businesses rather than simply following the latest technology trend, what is the very first step they should take before investing significant time or money into a new venture?
Well, a couple of things. To answer your first question, we absolutely can build a website on the blockchain. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's one of the things that I'm really proud of for Archively. So we talked about document storage being permanent. You could lose 5,000 servers and your document's still going to be available, and how that really matters in an emergency, right? You need the medical directive to save Uncle Joe's life. Also, you need the power of attorney, so somebody is authorized to care for his autistic son because he's unconscious or whatever, right? Like those kind of things that have to be available when it matters. So the document itself is there, but the way you access the document is a website, right? Like you're describing with this cPanel situation. So what we have implemented with Archively is we can't have the site be down for a few hours. What if that's the moment that the medical directive is needed and someone's life is at stake or their health, So our website has a real-time mirror to the blockchain, not a backup, a real-time mirror. And so we're constantly checking every 5 minutes. We're pinging our own website. Is it live? Is it live? Is it live? Is it live? If no, then the blockchain backup automatically activates, which runs more slowly. That's the downside. That's why we don't run the site on blockchain all the time. But in an emergency, we can deliver the document that's needed. So it's absolutely possible, and I'm so glad to be on this show where we can kind of geek out about the tech.
I know, right? It's really amazing to discuss with a like mind, and yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And I think at the end of the day, the technologies that endure are really the ones generating the loudest headlines. More often, they're the ones quietly solving expensive problems so effectively that over time, people stop noticing the technology altogether. And if blockchain is going to mature as an industry, it will likely be because more builders adopt the kind of operational thinking that we've discussed today, where execution matters more than excitement and usefulness matters more than novelty. Well, I think that's one key takeaway we can learn from, or we can take from, or get from this episode today. So, Dan, thank you so much for your time on this episode on Web3 Unfiltered. This has been an amazing conversation, really insightful one, really enlightening. A lot of ideas shared here. Before we wrap up the episode, do you have any final notes for our listeners?
No, thank you so much. It's been really great to be able to take kind of a deep dive, and love to come back and talk about any more details that you think people would like to hear about.
All right then, noted, very much noted. And folks, I believe what we can understand from, or what we can take away from this whole conversation is that blockchain's long-term success will not be determined by how many tokens are launched or how many speculative narratives emerge. It will be determined by whether businesses can use decentralized infrastructure to solve problems more effectively than existing systems. And through Archively, Dan Beech is exploring one such opportunity, using blockchain to strengthen trust, authenticity, and long-term integrity in document management. Now, whether that becomes a widely adopted model remains to be seen, but it reflects the kind of practical infrastructure first thinking that the industry needs more of. And a big thank you to Dan for joining us on Web3 Unfiltered and sharing both his entrepreneurial experience and the thinking behind Archively. If you'd like to learn more about Dan and explore Archively, visit archively.com. You'll find the link in the show notes. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep building.